Echoes in the dark, a taxonomy of the unseen. The veil between worlds is thin, often porous, and through its rents and tears entities slip or perhaps are pushed. We, the living, move through our days largely oblivious to the silent and sometimes not so silent company we keep. But for those of us who listen, who watch, who dare to look into the shadowed corners of existence, the presence of the departed is an undeniable truth, a chilling constant in the human experience. These are not mere fables whispered around dying fires, but phenomena documented, studied, and with trepidation catalogued within these very archives. Not all ghosts are the same. Some whisper forgotten secrets on the midnight air. Some scream their eternal torment into the void, their anguish a palpable force. Some, tragically, don't even know they're dead, forever reliving a moment a day, an emotion trapped in a loop of their own fading consciousness. The spectrum of spectral existence is as varied and complex as life itself, each manifestation a unique echo of a soul's journey, or its abrupt jarring cessation. Tonight, we delve into the classifications. We attempt to bring order to the ethereal chaos, to categorize the dead who do not rest. Based on true reports meticulously gathered, ancient texts deciphered with painstaking care, and chilling accounts from haunted places best left unvisited. You've entered File 8B, Spectral Manifestations. We seek not to sensationalize, but to understand, to document the myriad ways the departed continue to touch, and sometimes to grasp at our world. Archivist note. This is not a complete list. No such list exists, for the shadows are ever shifting, ever birthing new forms of unease. The lingering stain residual spirits. Consider, if you will, the very fabric of a place, its stones, its timbers, its dust-laden air. Can intense emotion, a moment of profound joy, sorrow, or terror leave an indelible mark upon these inanimate objects? The evidence, compiled over centuries, suggests it can. These are the residual hauntings, the echoes of the past imprinted upon the present. They are not conscious entities in the way we understand consciousness, rather they are psychic recordings playing out on an endless loop, oblivious to our presence, our fear, or our attempts at communication. They are the stains left by life's most potent moments. Imagine a spectral soldier, forever marching down a corridor that no longer exists in his time, passing through walls that were erected long after his demise. His movements are precise, repeated nightly, a ghostly reenactment of a forgotten duty. Or perhaps you've heard them, the disembodied footsteps, always at 2:13 a.m., pacing an empty attic, each tread falling with the same weight, the same rhythm, night after weary night. These are not attempts to engage. They are merely the resonance of past actions, a groove worn into the atmosphere by the sheer force of repetition or the intensity of a singular powerful event. These spirits, if we can truly call them such in their unaware state, do not interact with the living. They will not respond to your questions, your pleas, or your provocations. They are locked within their own temporal fragment, replaying a scene from a life long extinguished. You might witness a fleeting glimpse of a woman in a window, always looking out with the same sorrowful expression, or hear the faint strains of a lullaby sung by a mother whose child has long since turned to dust. These are not hauntings in the active sense. They are memories embedded in the environment, like a faded photograph bleeding its image into the very air. Archivist note. Residuals are not aware, but they still terrify, for they are the undying echoes of what once was. The watchful dead, intelligent spirits. Beyond the mere echoes, beyond the psychic stains upon a location, there exist entities that possess a chilling awareness. These are the intelligent spirits, the conscious remnants of individuals who, for reasons myriad and often tragic, have not fully transitioned from our plane of existence. They are not simply replaying a past moment, They're experiencing the present, albeit through a spectral lens. They see you. They hear your whispers. They remember your intrusions into their domain, and crucially, they react. These entities linger for a multitude of reasons, each a tether binding them to the world of the living. Some are bound by an overwhelming love, unable to leave behind those they cherished in life. Others are shackled by an equally potent fear, perhaps of judgment or of the unknown that lies beyond. Revenge, a bitter, corrosive force, can anchor a spirit, compelling it to seek retribution against those perceived to have wronged them. And then there is simple, profound confusion, the spirit disoriented by a sudden death, unaware of their state, desperately trying to make sense of their new, intangible reality. Society secret: never give them your name. A name is a key, a connection. You may not get it back, for in offering it, you offer a part of yourself, an anchor they might willingly grasp. The noisy, dark poltergeists. The term poltergeist, derived from the German for noisy spirit or rumbling ghost, conjures images of chaotic, often violent paranormal activity. Unlike many other spectral manifestations, poltergeists rarely present as full-bodied apparitions. Instead, their presence is announced through a cacophony of physical disturbances, objects hurled across rooms with unseen force, glassware shattering spontaneously, doors slamming shut with violent intent, and inexplicable rapping sounds that seem to emanate from within the very walls of a dwelling. They are defined by their actions, not their appearance. These phenomena often appear to be centered around a specific individual, typically an adolescent, leading some researchers to theorize that poltergeist activity is not the work of an external spirit at all. Instead, they propose it is a manifestation of psychokinesis, the mind's ability to influence the physical world, triggered by intense, repressed human emotion, stress, or psychological turmoil. In this view, the haunting is an unconscious lashing out, a physical externalization of inner torment, with the individual themselves as the unwitting epicenter of the disturbance. However, other accounts, steeped in older lore and more unsettling encounters, suggest a darker origin. Some believe poltergeists are indeed distinct entities, perhaps elemental spirits, mischievous and often malevolent in nature, drawn to environments charged with negative energy or to individuals experiencing emotional vulnerability. These interpretations paint a picture not of unconscious human power, but of an external, often predatory force that delights in creating fear and disruption, feeding off the ensuing emotional chaos. The debate over their true nature continues to rage within paranormal circles. The manifestations themselves can escalate alarmingly. What begins as minor disturbances, a tapping here, a misplaced object there, can quickly intensify into a barrage of activity. Chapter 4. The Final Farewell, Crisis Apparitions. Among the myriad forms of spectral encounters, there exists a category that is uniquely poignant, often fleeting and deeply personal: the crisis apparition. These are not the lingering spirits of a haunted locale, nor the disruptive forces of a poltergeist. Instead, a crisis apparition is typically the spectral image of a loved one, appearing at or near the moment of their death, often to convey a final farewell, a message of comfort, or simply to be seen one last time, even when they are geographically distant, sometimes thousands of miles away. These visitations are characterized by their brevity and their profound emotional impact. A family member might see their distant relative standing in their bedroom doorway, smiling sadly, only to receive news hours or days later that this person passed away at that very moment. The apparition does not linger. It does not haunt in the traditional sense. It appears, delivers its silent or sometimes spoken message, and then vanishes, often forever, having completed its singular, sorrowful purpose. The nature of these apparitions is a subject of much speculation. Are they a projection of the dying person's consciousness? A final surge of emotional energy reaching out to those they hold dear? Or perhaps they are a form of telepathic communication, the intense trauma of death creating a psychic ripple that manifests visually to a receptive loved one. Some even theorize they are facilitated by an external agency, a compassionate guide or guardian spirit, allowing for this one last poignant connection across the veil. Unlike other ghostly encounters that might instill fear or unease, crisis apparitions, while startling, often bring a sense of peace or closure to the recipient, despite the sorrowful news that inevitably follows. The experience, though paranormal, feels meaningful, a final tender goodbye. Death is not always a peaceful transition, a gentle sigh into the unknown. When life is extinguished through violence, through sudden, brutal trauma, or in an agony of fear and pain, the spiritual severance can be equally violent, leaving behind not a serene soul, but a fractured, tormented echo. These are the traumatic entities, spirits, or perhaps more accurately, concentrations of pure agony that return broken, angry, and terrifyingly incomplete, their spectral forms often reflecting the horrors of their demise. These are not the coherent, if unsettled, intelligences we discussed earlier. While some may retain a semblance of their former selves, many traumatic entities appear as raw psychic wounds, lashing out blindly from a place of unending torment. Others are not truly spirits in the traditional sense at all, but rather a visible, palpable manifestation of pain itself. Agony given form, terror given substance. They are the psychic screams of a violent end, solidified into a haunting presence, forever replaying their final horrific moments. The hauntings associated with traumatic entities are rarely subtle. They are characterized by a palpable sense of dread, of malevolence, and often by direct physical aggression. These are the spirits that are reported to scratch, to bite, to shove, their touch icy cold or burning hot, leaving physical marks on the living. The very atmosphere of a location haunted by such an entity can feel heavy, suffocating, permeated by an almost tangible despair or rage. They seek not communication but to inflict, to share their unending suffering. These entities often seem to feed on the fear they inspire, their manifestations growing stronger, more aggressive, as the terror of those present escalates. Not all spirits wander into our world unbidden. Some are deliberately invited, called forth from whatever realm they inhabit through rituals, incantations, and the focused will of the summoner. These are the summoned spirits, entities that arrive not by chance or by lingering attachment, but by direct intentional invocation. The motivations for such summonings are as varied as human desire itself, to gain knowledge, to seek power, to communicate with a departed loved one, or sometimes, born of a darker curiosity, to command or enslave a denizen of the unseen world. The methods of summoning are ancient and diverse, often involving complex ceremonies, specific symbols, consecrated spaces, and tools like mirrors, crystals, or Ouija boards, believed to act as conduits or gateways. These practices are not to be undertaken lightly, for the act of opening a door to the other side is fraught with unpredictable consequences. One may intend to call forth a specific, perhaps benign entity, but the currents of the ethereal realms are notoriously difficult to control. What answers the call may not be what was anticipated. Summoned spirits do not always come willingly. Some may be compelled against their nature, arriving resentful and hostile. Others, perhaps more opportunistic or malevolent, may seize the chance to cross into our plane, eager to exert influence or cause harm. The crucial and often tragically overlooked aspect of any summoning ritual is the closing. Whatever doorway is opened, whatever connection is forged, must be meticulously and correctly sealed. Among the more unsettling and enigmatic spectral classifications is that of the reflected entity. These are the phantoms that seem to inhabit or manifest through reflective surfaces, most commonly mirrors, but also polished silver, standing water, or even the darkened screen of a television. The reflected ghost is a rare and deeply disturbing phenomenon, for it often plays upon our own image, our own sense of self, twisting the familiar into something alien and threatening. It is the uncanny valley of the spectral world. These entities often mimic poorly. You might catch a glimpse of your reflection in a darkened window, only to see it move when you are still, or smile when your face is set in an expression of fear. Sometimes the reflection is subtly wrong. The eyes a different colour, the features slightly distorted, a flicker of an expression that is not your own. This imperfect mimicry is a hallmark, suggesting not a true reflection but an entity attempting to wear a familiar guise, or perhaps one that is itself fragmented and incomplete. At other times, what appears in the glass is not a distorted version of the observer, but something else entirely. A fleeting face, a shadowy figure standing behind you where no one is, or an environment that is not the room you currently occupy. Some traditions call these entities watchers, believing them to be spirits or beings that observe our world through these reflective portals. Others theorize they are fragments, psychic remnants left behind when a soul, or perhaps something else, crosses over, leaving shards of consciousness embedded in these liminal spaces. The lore surrounding mirror ghosts is ancient and pervasive. Many cultures hold superstitions about covering mirrors in a house of mourning, lest the spirit of the deceased become trapped within, or to prevent it from pulling another soul into the glass. The shadows lengthen, and our brief excursion into the taxonomy of the unseen draws to a close. Yet the work of the archivist is never truly done. We catalogue what we can. Echoes, whispers, monsters that defy easy categorization, the sorrowful and the sinister. But there are always new kinds, waiting. The spectral world is not static. It is as dynamic and ever-changing as life itself, constantly presenting new mysteries, new forms of manifestation that challenge our understanding and test the boundaries of our courage. The knowledge we gather, piece by painstaking piece from whispered accounts, ancient texts, and the chilling testimonies of those who have brushed against the veil, serves not only to document but also to arm. For to understand the nature of these entities, their habits, their potential dangers, is the first step in navigating a world far more crowded than most perceive. The question isn't whether ghosts exist, for their echoes are all around us. The question is, what kind will you become? A chilling thought, perhaps, but one that lingers in the quiet hours. For those of us who delve into these forbidden archives, who seek to illuminate the darkness, the pursuit is endless, the responsibility profound. We tread where others fear, not for sport, but for the preservation of knowledge that might one day prove vital. The unseen world has its own rules, its own denizens, and its own secrets. Some knowledge should not be unearthed, but we are not most people.